IEA basically provides this platform through the webinars and other forums for public education, as well as to elevate debate and dialogue on important issues in the country. And I can see we are joined by, we have a substantial quorum. I've just spotted in the meeting, we have Solomon Muturi, who is a friend of the IEA and a former board member. So I just wanted to mention that, but karibuni sana. So Njuguna, I know you have a presentation, so you can upload it as you make your introductions. Karibu.
Okay, thank you, John. Let me just upload my presentation. Can you guys see it?
Yes, yes, we can see it. Yeah, so please proceed. Hello, Njuguna? You are muted.
Is that better?
Yeah. So
you can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Please proceed.
Super.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, super. So I was saying, by way of introductions, my name is Gugi Jogona. I am the operations lead at Sydenham Power, and I'll be presenting to you a small presentation on enhancing reliability, reliable electricity access through solar in Kenya. The information I'm about to share with you is by virtue of my position here and the experiences that we've had working in the solar space here in Kenya. So to just get on, about Sydenham Power, our mission is to be a strategic partner to our clients and preferred provider of innovative alternative energy solutions that translate into financial and environmental savings. And our vision is a brighter and greener East Africa, basically brighter by providing SPLs, that's solar lighting products, and greener is providing basically environmental friendly energy solutions. Our purpose is to drive the uptake of alternative energy solutions in Kenya towards what John was saying earlier, basically reliability, affordability, and sustainability. We were founded 3 years ago in the year 2018 out of a gap we had noticed in the market for good quality solar products in the market. We've been working across Kenya, just basically connecting those who are off-grid and making sure that they have access to energy for lighting, to power their homes, to power their schools, etc. So we work with a range of global partners, very reputed organizations, ISO certified, so our products are very quality, and we offer very good warranties also on those products. We work across various industrial sectors, which is basically the education sector, the agricultural sector, financial services, manufacturing, oil, and energy, and also work with the county governments just to ensure that we are connecting those that are off-grid. Our team includes 25 plus internal and external associates, including engineers, solar technicians, and project managers, and we're growing every day. Like you said, the uptake is really high right at the moment, and so the need is there, and so we keep growing as demand allows. So we have a range of products, which is ranging from LED solar floodlights, to street lights, inverters, monocrystalline panels, solar pumps, and I won't focus too much on this. In case of any questions from the participants, they can reach out to me after this. So I'll just go straight into our discussion today. And I'll start with a poll question that I think will be broadcasted onto your Twitter handle. So how many people in the world do not have access to electricity? If you were to estimate, is it less than 100 million, 100 million to 1 billion, more than 1 billion? I'm actually very curious to hear what your responses are. I'll maybe give you a few seconds to run that poll on the Twitter page and see what responses we can come up with. So we'll start with a bit of statistics on the electrification rates here in Kenya. Not in Kenya, actually globally. So this information and the numbers that we have here in are from the International Energy Agency 2015 KCIC report. It estimates that about 1.3 billion people globally do not have electricity. And if you were to try and put these figures into size these figures, this is about the entire population of India. So it's really massive. And we know that, as John said, for the development of any country and its people, access to energy is really important. Now, shame is that 95% of this population, the 1.3 billion, comes from sub-Saharan Africa and developing Asia. Now, if you look at sub-Saharan Africa, where we are, it's quite a shame seen as we have a lot of energy resources from the sun, from the geothermal, from wind energy that we can use and tap to access this energy. So according to this report also, solar modules have traded annually in Kenya have increased by almost 100% in the year 2018, between the year 2015 and 2018. So from 25,000 in the year 2015 to 30,000 in the year 2018, which goes to show that there's a need for electrification, there's a need for access to power, and more people are getting connected to electricity and off-grid power sources through solar. So the Rural Electrification Authority of Kenya has also done a tremendous job. So they installed over solar systems in over 4,000 schools just to, provide access to this required resource. So why solar power? When we look at renewable energy and the various forms of renewable energy that are available, we have geothermal, we have solar, we have wind. But why solar? So solar, out of all the forms of renewable energy, has the biggest promise in Kenya, and it's because of cost, it's because of availability, it's because of what's the word? Its diversity and how flexible it is. So to set up a geothermal power plant, excluding maintenance, will cost you about 300,000 per kilowatt. So if you look at that in the grand scheme of things, to power an ordinary home, you need about 2 kilowatt systems. So that's like 600,000 just to set it up. No maintenance, nothing. If you look at a basic wind generator, will cost you about 170,000 shillings today in Kenya to set up, to power your home, versus 4,500 shillings for a panel and some lights, and we're in business, right? So this is just a very high-level argument to show why solar power is the preferred reliable energy solution for the Kenyan market. Now, it has not always been the preferred because about 21 years ago, at the beginning of the millennium, the cost of a solar PV system was at about $5 per watt. So just to give you a grand scheme of things, it's in order to power, maybe to set up, I don't know, maybe 6 bulbs, a charging station, and sorry. I will ask that we mute ourselves so that, yeah. Also, I was saying that the cost of 20 years ago, the cost of setting up a basic solar system at $5 per, which is about 500 shillings per watt, would have set you back, just to get maybe a few lights and a charging station, would have set you back 500 shillings per times 100, that's about 50,000. Today, with 4,500 shillings, you can have such a system. And so the demand for the solar solution is what's driving down the cost. So what I have here is a graphical representation of the pricing of solar in US dollars between the year 2000 to 2014, when we hit our lowest, where we are ranging about now, because I think X Factory, you can get a solar panel at least 0.5 of the dollar. This information I got from the Energy and Resource Institute. Moving forward to the solar power market in Kenya, it's divided into 3 broad segments. So we have the domestic, which is the largest segment, which includes the homes, the smallholder agri-ventures, the small-scale commercial ventures like small-scale bakeries, small-scale businesses. The second segment is institutions. So when we look at institutions, we have universities, government agencies, the county governments, schools, and hospitals, how they're getting connected to how electrification is getting to them through solar. We have the third segment, which is commercial, basically manufacturing industries, financial services providers, large-scale agri-ventures like the flower farms in Naivasha, energy and oil distributors. The petrol stations are now going solar, just trying to make sure that their operations are efficient and cost effective. I think in the last year, from what we have seen, is that there's been a huge. I think COVID has come with its challenges and opportunities at the same time. I think it reiterated the need for very streamlined, for very cost-effective operations, and so we are seeing a switch of industries and service providers and these commercial industries to solar, where they're looking at, hey, how can we cut back on our operating costs? With the kind of solar solutions we have in the market right now, it's possible to bring this cost down by almost 80% on average. Other depending on your operations and your energy requirements, others are even saving up to 100% on their operating costs, electricity operating costs. To further segment this market, the domestic market, so we have various options of systems in in the market. We have the small picos. I think we've all seen them around. These are the bulbs connected to one panel, maybe 6-watt panel, and we mainly see this with the hawkers, mama mbogas on the side of the road, and it has really come to help them in how they run their businesses, because whereas long time ago they used to maybe use torches on their mouths as they try to, pack your nyanya and kitungus on the side. Now they're able to light their operations through the night until when they're able to close. So micro solar home systems, these are systems that produce about 5 to 10 watts, which can include 1 to 4, which can power maybe 1 to 4 lights, a radio, and a mobile phone. And then we have slightly bigger systems, which are solar home systems, and they're off-grid. They produce between 10 and 100 WPs, and which is ideal for powering and lighting your home, appliances, and heating systems. The second segment that we have are institutions, which are basically standalone institutional systems. By standalone, I mean that they're not connected, they're not integrated with the grid. Just to circle back a bit, there are 3 prevalent or basic solar power systems. We have the hybrid with storage, and a hybrid with storage is one that's connected to the grid, but you're able to store excess power to use when you're not generating any power from your panels. Then we have the grid tie, where it's integrated to the grid, and so basically during the day when you're producing power from the sun and from your panels, you are not using the grid, but the grid is still comes in as a backup to sort of take care of the differences where the solar is not sufficient, the grid checks in. So it works hand in hand, and it's automatically regulated. Then we have finally off-grid, which is completely off-grid. It's just your solar panel, your storage. So during the day, the power from the panels is stored in the batteries and also is used to power. And at night, you just use your power storage from the batteries. So the standalone systems are also for the institutional segmentation. So we have standalone systems, which are between 500 watts and 2 kilowatt systems, primarily used in the rural electrifications. We have the telecommunication and street lighting. They use systems between 0.2 kilowatts to 15 kilowatts, and mini grids, which are used to power small villages, pumping stations, water pumping stations, and these are between 5 kilowatts and 1 megawatt. And for the commercial systems, that segment of the market, we have grid tie or grid connect, which range between 0.5 of a megawatt to 40 megawatts, and is ideally used in the shopping malls, in the industrial plants that we have, and maybe to power business operations like banks. Yeah, so those are the 3 main broad segments that we have seen in the market. And so just to break it down further, we have noted that the uptake of solar use is more in the rural setup, and this is just because of the need. With lack of connectivity to the grid, we find that more people are looking for a way to power up their homes, and solar being the most cost-effective and available renewable energy source, they tend to go for that. So peri-urban is the next, where we are seeing mostly homeowners in the outskirts of major towns. Like, for example, in Nairobi, we are finding homeowners around Syokimau, this side, Kahawa West, Ruiru, Thika, setting up, standalone home systems for their homes to basically power their homes and get off grid, just maybe because of reliability issues or cost issues, and save on that. And then in the urban segment, the urban was the least had the least uptake, and basically because the urban consists of mostly rental units. So if you were to do anything with solar, you'd have to situation where the tenants are trying to liaise with the landlords, and it becomes a bit messy. So basically, the primary uses for solar in this market is and the domestic market is basically household lighting, mobile phone charging, powering basic appliances, pumping water for security systems, and water heating systems. So this is just a diagram here just to show a very high level working of how the solar feeds an inverter and the grid and the batteries to power the home. Moving on, we had another poll question that we wanted to gauge what is the biggest concern when it comes to solar power for you as the end user. Is it the quality of the systems? Is it the costs involved? Is it the accessibility? Is it the lack of professional advice, or all of the above? So I think maybe we can run a poll on that and try and get the opinions. So moving on, we'll look at what are the barriers to the uptake of solar in Kenya. So we have the first one is the policy barriers. At the moment, I would say that the government has put in place incentives for the uptake of solar by cutting down on by the use of like fiscal policies to exempt taxes on some of the solar items, but I still feel more can be done in terms of incentivizing the population and just creating awareness out there for the need of renewable energy and solar power in Kenya. We have unskilled technicians, while the regulatory actors, which is ideally the EPRA, has done a lot to ensure that there's control around the technicians installing solar systems in the homes, in the industries. They need to be licensed, they need to be accredited. The companies that are doing this need to be accredited by EPRA. So I think, but still we are finding that the market has unskilled technicians being pushed to the client through the distributors. And so I think there's still space for a bit of control there. We have social technical barriers, which basically I feel comes to the kind of quality of products in the market, where there's a lot of talk around town that you spend so much money in installing a solar home system, but then or a solar power system for your industry, but then what is the service like after my payback period? What service am I getting after? Will it even serve me to my payback period? So these are the social technical barriers that we are seeing to the uptake of solar in Kenya. And then we have also the economic barriers, where not many people can afford the initial capital outlay that is required to set up a solar system. So, for example, if it's an industry, how much of their working capital do they have to take out and to fund this investment and vis-a-vis the returns. And for home systems, same scenario. How many people can afford 400,000 to power maybe a 5 kilowatt home system? So these are the biggest barriers that we're seeing to the uptake of solar. And so these are our what we've seen as the bottom line, and the recommendations that we would give in this market is there's a lot of potential and there's room for growth in the solar market in Kenya and Africa as a whole. And how we think that this can be achieved is maybe by having more forums such as this to, create awareness to the end user about the gains that can be made from solar use, from cost savings to sustainable energy and just protecting our planet and our environment. And also at the same time, from these forums, we can get feedback on on what the market needs, so that we have sort of a customer-centric approach to how we are providing solutions to this market. We also need to introduce off-grid policies that explore mini and microgrid investor protection. So in this case, we're looking at investors, both local and international, looking to set up maybe solar farms and feed the grid. And so what sort of what policies do we have to protect the investment? Are the terms competitive? Are they inviting? Do they create interest among the investor community? So these are the things we need to look at. Also, we also need to look at the net metering, for example, where, and I think this would create a very interesting sort of incentive for the standalone, solar system investors and owners, because if we can feed the excess power that we generate back to the grid and sort of run our meters back, that should be an incentive, knowing that at the end of the day, whatever I use from KPLC during the day, if I generate more, I can always feed it back to the system and then get net metered. I think instead of wasting that energy, I think that would create an incentive towards the uptake of solar in Kenya. We also need to, like I said, the regulatory authorities have done a lot in terms of trying to protect the market and control the kind of goods that are coming and solar products that are coming into the market. But I feel that more stringent measures should be put in place just to ensure that we are not flooding the market with counterfeit products and low quality products that is creating disquiet and maybe pushing people away from, because away from installing solar systems in their homes, in their businesses, just because they're not sure of the quality of product that they're receiving. And finally, more official policy reviews. For example, recently, I think in 2012 we got a raft of measures that included like exemption from VAT for solar products and excise duty, which really promoted the uptake of solar in Kenya. And so I think last year, with the review of the VAT bill, the solar products are also included into the VATable segment of products. So I feel like while we're still not paying excise duties, if solar products and renewable energy products could be VAT exempt, that will also promote their uptake by making them affordable. So that brings me to the end of this presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks a lot, Njuguna, for that. For those insights on solar energy use. You've taken us through the entire journey, right from some statistics around solar energy use in Kenya. You've covered aspects of the solar power market, and you've shared details of the categorization amongst domestic, institutional, and commercial users, as well as the solar power segmentation and its use, and of course concluded with some what you've called bottom line and recommendation, just basically making a case for solar energy use. Now, before we open this up for Q&A, I would like to invite Kwame, our CEO, Kwame Owino, to respond basically to the presentation. Kwame?
Okay. Thanks, John, and thanks, Gugi, for thank you. Thanks, John, and thanks, Gugi, for the brilliant exposition of the state of solar energy use in Kenya. I think you've stated its potentials as well. So I'll just looked at the economics of solar energy, and one of the things that was clear for a very long time was that the case for solar was a very good case. It was fashionable. It was very quote-unquote woke, but the economics was still against it in the sense that it was an expensive system, or at least viewed as an expensive system. I think thanks to scientific or other technology research, obviously, as Ngugi has explained to us, the costs have started to come down steeply. And what that means is it's now not just good for the environment for normative reasons, but it also makes cost effective. It's cost effective and makes good argument, the cost argument. So that compelling argument, cost argument, is an important one. It's an important one for us because as a student of economics, one of the things that we at the IEA and everyone else favor is the idea of market competition. We understand that when there's competition, obviously diverse sources allows for greater public welfare, but it also puts pressure on suppliers basically to actually have to compete. And that initiates a series of internal reforms and improvements that actually generate greater value. I think the entry of solar in Kenya is one such, because this energy sector in Kenya, and especially if you're talking about the electricity energy sector, petroleum as well, I mean, because it's part of it is also used to generate power. One of the things that you've done is that by design, the government of Kenya cushioned this industry from most competition. We have some of the most expensive power anywhere in the world, not just in absolute terms, but also relative to incomes. And that wasn't changing. So there's a need for something to change. I also learned a second thing was, I also used to think that, for a long time at least, that solar energy and solutions were available at micro level, but more importantly at household level. What Ngugi has made clear to us is that it's very possible to scale it, and of course there are industrial uses for it. I thought earlier that one of the things that industries tend to do is basically to use solar systems as backup, especially because, as I mentioned, the very comfortable monopoly or near monopoly situation that Kenya's energy industry, whether it's from the generation part coming all the way down to distribution, is such that the quality of power, even when it was available, was so bad that most looks like this. My microphone. So the quality of power was so bad that its reliability was a big problem. So many of the manufacturing firms or the industrial users of power in Kenya, what they tended to do was to actually have a backup, and I thought that power is. Now, one more thing about good news is from what And Ngugi says it's actually clear that some farms can actually use power as the main source for operation. So it's not just basic solar power. So it's not just the backup that's there. So if you put all these together, I think it is, just like it is globally, and thanks to investments in China, I think, which is the world's largest producer of solar panels. There are other industries, I mean, there are other countries somewhere else, but I think the leader by a huge part is China, based on the data that I saw. One of the things that shows is that, yes, the context, the market dynamics are going to change the mix of power, and it's going to change the demand structure in Kenya as well. Largely because, of course, solar is very much available. So having stated that, let me now say some of the things that I think are the three questions, and most of these are basically questions related to policy. I think that the new reality will be a diversity of power sources, so that the capture that, in my view, the electricity generating and transmission industries in Kenya have had might, I say might, but I think, let me just say the dial is tilting towards consumers, in the sense that consumers will have more choice. That's entirely a very good thing. The second point that I'd like Ngugi to respond to is the question of, it is true that, for the purposes, or rather the mechanism for generation, solar power is compelling for environmental purposes, in the sense that it's a less carbon intense, actually zero carbon intense at the generation level source. What I'd like for us to say is that, what's the lifespan rather of a panel? Some evidence and data that I saw says that unless there's a new incentive for processing panels at the end of their lives, I saw something that says something between 15 to 25 years, at the end of their lives, panels might become electronic waste equivalent to what we have now. And obviously, wide-scale adoption of solar energy, which would probably happen in the African continent as well, as we have seen data, would then generate end-of-life disposal questions, which of course has a cost component. It can be solved, but I think I'd like to see what Ngugi says would happen. The third point is the question of reliability. As I stated earlier, the thinking is that reliability for solar energy is much higher when you have a regular flow. I think the intensity and I don't know what the technical word is, but whatever it's the inverters and the ability to actually store power, of course, rises with the amount of energy that is required. I'm not too sure how. It suggests to me that while there's a compelling argument for industrial use, I think the strongest argument still seems to be for institutional, small institutions, off-grid solutions, and obviously for households. Provided the barrier of fast investment, the fixed cost of investment can actually be overcome, which many households in Kenya might not be able to. But the possibility that if they can find the technical skills, hire the technical skills through better training, as you said, regulation of technicians, then it's possible that happens. But it looks to me that the immediate competition for energy sources, I think, will come to consumers, and consumers at the retail level. I was looking at KPLC's data. Obviously, this is not the time to look at it. I think these have been difficult years for it. But I was looking at the KPLC data, and as I looked at KPLC data, my assessment based on the disaggregation of that data suggests that something like 30% of consumers buy 70% of the power. And the rest of the population, and many of them, actually buy power in very small quantities. I am thinking that's where solar competition will be most intense. I'm not too sure whether that's true or not, but I also know one thing that also goes back to the policy. I think leveling the policy playing field is essential, because we all know that I think the first 120 to 200 units of power use in Kenya are actually subsidized. So if you move to solar energy without that subsidy, of course, I'm not saying anyone has asked for it. It suggests that there's no level playing field for the purposes of competing at the domestic level. And I thought that would be a compelling argument for pushing solar, or rather a cost-effective approach, as has been demonstrated by Sydenham and perhaps whatever other competitors might be there. So thanks a lot, John, and a nice presentation congratulations to Sydenham and Gugi. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Kwame, for those views and just situating the subject, looking at it, for instance, from an economic side of things. So I think you posed some 3 clear questions, which I will not repeat. So what I will do, maybe before I go to I invite the participants just to quickly request Ngugi to react to those questions, and then we can open it up.
Hi, John. Hi, John. Would you mind repeating the first question, please?
Let me see. I hope I captured it well. If not, then Kwame can. I think there was the issue of diversity of power. I mean, consumers will have more choice. I'm not sure what the question was, but there were 3 things. Let me see.
John,
Kwame, Kwame, quickly, the first question.
Okay, the first question was just basically a premise, which I don't know whether you agree with or not, that yes, solar brings in diversification of power sources. However, I was thinking that it's fine. It's more at entry level. Perhaps it presents a more compelling solution for institutions and small enterprises. Scaling for large-scale manufacturing and intense energy might be a medium-term one. So maybe you could comment on that. And then the second one was, of course, on the environmental effects of the lifespan of panels. And obviously, the third one is a question of reliability. I've seen in the news some people say that, yes, if this thing is not connected properly, I think it too could generate damage to equipment. And it's something that we've seen already. So, yes, so what numbers exist to show whether that's a real concern or that's just a concern that is maybe peculiar to certain circumstances? Thanks.
Thank you, Kwame. So in terms of diversity and your view that the solar power energy would be more effective, for lack of a better word, in the small scale and entry level, I'd want to negate that, because we are seeing large industries. I'll give an example of Kappa oil here on Mombasa Road. I think last year, but in 2019, they installed a 1.5 megawatt system that has been working so well for them that they have reduced their overall power consumption, or basically making savings of about 100,000 Kenya shillings per day in savings for power on their power bills. So we can see Kappa is a huge consumer of electricity, and this solar power system is actually working for them and saving a lot of energy, electricity use for them. In terms of, you asked about the end-life disposal question. Now, that is true that unless we quickly find a solution to how we dispose, because the life of a solar panel is about 25 years with 80% efficiency degradation on it, so meaning it can serve you for longer than that. So basically, when OEMs, original equipment manufacturers, are selling this product. They give you this product. They give you a 25-year performance warranty on their product, such that in the 25 years that you have this panel installed in your home, in your business, it will serve you at 80%, with at most 20% degradation over the 25 years that you have it installed. So in terms of waste, throwing it away after 25 years, I don't think that's the case. However, at the end at the end of its life, we need to find waste disposal and ways to, maybe repurpose it or reuse it or rehabilitate the panel so that they can be used again. And I think also that will will bring savings in terms of the cost of panels. In terms of reliability, you mentioned about the variation in the intensity of insulation from the sun. Definitely, solar power, like it suggests, the energy comes from the sun. So definitely, when we have clear skies and more intensity of irradiation from the sun, we definitely generate more power. However, when we are making cases for the business cases for the for a solar project on a premise, on a business, we do use at least 4.5 hours of irradiation, which is maybe the median between the peak, which is about 8 hours, and the least amount of energy you can get from those panels in a day, which is about 4 hours. So I think in Kenya, statistics show that the average intensity that we're able to, of insolation from the sun is 4.5 kilowatts per meter squared per day. So that is sufficient to produce at least 4.5 to 6 hours of solar power a day to run your home, to run your business, which still brings immense savings on your power bill at the end of the month. Now, overcoming these barriers to, say, financing your solar projects for both home and for the commercial segments of the market. I think in the Kadogo market, where we have the Pico systems and the micro home solar systems, we have the pay-as-you-go systems that have been working very well, where the customers put down a small deposit and pay maybe 50 shillings a day for a year and then end up owning it. So that has worked well in that segment. When we're looking at the commercial segment, we have interesting products that are coming into the market, from leasing, operating leases, from financing leases, where where companies don't have to take away from their working capital in order to have these systems in place. In fact, they pay for the systems from the savings that they're making, and it has been seen and it has been working. I'll give that example of Kappa Oil for that. So we still don't have maybe financing solutions, maybe pay as you save for regular home systems, maybe 3 kilowatt, from the 3 kilowatt to 5 kilowatt segment of the market, where there's a gap. And as a company, I know we are in conversations with some financial partners to see how we can bridge that gap. But it's doable, because when we do cash flows on the savings vis-a-vis what could have been paid to the grid, Kenya Power, it makes sense because the payback period is about 5 years on home solutions and maybe up to between 3 and 4 years for industrial solar solutions. I think I've covered everything.
Yeah, thanks, Njuguna, for that. I guess now we'll move on to the. Well, basically, I would like to invite our participants to make or raise whatever questions that they may have. I can see we have raised by Caroline. Of course, we have some questions in the chat box, but I would also like to invite whoever wants to ask a question. You can unmute yourself. Let's start with Caroline. Caroline, are you there? Okay. So let me go because it seems either Caroline is muted or something. But we have a couple of questions in the chat box.
Hello?
Caroline, are you there?
Oh?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
Please
let
go
me
ahead.
proceed. Mine is just to echo what the presentation has been all about in terms of solar. With my own experience, I ran a dairy farm, and my dairy farm really required a lot of water and electricity to do a number of chores in the farm. So one day I approached KPLC. I have nothing against KPLC. And the nearest transformer was about 600 meters away from my farm. So they gave me a bill, the bill that, or the fee that I was supposed to pay was about $1 million plus, of course, once they scoped everything. And I was like, if I'm just starting off, and this is the sort of charge they're going to charge me for just installing a transformer. How about when I start now making the payments for electricity, given that, of course, the farm was expanding? So I went solar, and I had 2 boreholes in my farm, and each had a capacity of generating about 5,000 liters per day. So I used a solar submersible pump for both. Both had solar submersible pumps, and I was able to sustain my farm with about 10,000 liters per day of water, given that, well, cows take a lot of water, especially dairy cows. The other way was I used solar panels to light up the place, the shed, to light up my store. And then I used the street lights, 60 watts, about 4 of them, to light the entire shed. So for me, I have never paid electricity bills, and from there on, I only pay water connection fee for my water. Previously, I used to pay when I actually had to go solar for a submersible pump. It's when I was given a bill of 32,000 for water. So for me, I think, especially in the agricultural sector, solar is really the way to go. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Caroline.
John had a question for Caroline before we let her go.
Okay, Kenya.
If you don't mind, I just wanted to ask Caroline how much is spent on her solar system. It looks like she does not pay bills, so it means even at night she uses solar. So maybe she can probably tell us how much is spent in terms of the battery storage. How long is the capacity of the battery in terms of the time it can be able to store in terms? I think it's volt amperes time. Yeah, and how does that investment compare to how much savings that is making what you used to probably used to pay to Kenya Power before, in terms of payback time?
Okay, Caroline, quickly, you can maybe shed some light on that. Although, of course, the host, Njuguna is the main, but anyway, Caroline, you go ahead, just quickly. Yes, Caroline?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
I didn't get the question.
Sorry, Caroline, the question, and probably based on how you answer, it can also be a question to John, especially as far as the regulatory framework is concerned, because that is really going to speak into that. I just wanted to understand from someone who is already using solar, and you said that nowadays you don't pay bills at all. Your energy costs to Kenya Power actually zero. So how much did you invest on your solar project? And now that you also use it at night, so it means you have battery storage. So what is the capacity of the battery storage in terms of the volt amperes, and how much do you spend in terms of total investment? And if you compare that investment versus how much you're saving to Kenya Power, what you used to pay before, what is the payback period?
Ay. No, direka ti derduge one mute.
Caro, are you there?
Hello, you can hear me?
Yes.
In terms of investment, I would say, well, the two submersible pumps were about 150,000. For the installation of the solar panels that are electricity, the street lights, each one of them is 60 watts. That cost me about 7,000 each. They're about 4 very powerful ones on my shed. So add another 28 or so thousand. So in total, you would talk about not more than 200,000. So I did not even venture with KPLC because, like I said, when they gave me a bill of 1 million to come and install the transformer, I never ventured there. So for me, I have never paid any KPLC bills. So I wouldn't talk about anything in terms of bills. I've always been using my solar powered pumps and the other street lighting panels for lighting up the shed.
Thank you, Caro.
So there's no payback period really. For me, I'll enjoy this forever, for as long as I maintain my dairy farm.
Thank you. I guess you and Patrick can have a bilateral on that. So what I will do, I saw there was Wekulo had his hand raised. Wekulo, before I go to the chat box.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Just maybe a comment and a question.
Okay, go ahead.
One is, I think the issue that has just been raised by Carol on policy on payback and the way we are approaching solar might not be what I could call the normal way of approaching it, because we have just not had the ability as a country to have reliable and cost-effective energy sources, such that places where I come from Western Kenya, and for sure right now it's raining. It rains for 8 months in Western Kenya. In my rural home, the chances that my family would miss electricity would easily range between 60 and 70% of the time. So you can't put a cost to that. So there's definitely a need to look at not only the financial input in terms of the parts that are being used to build up the solar system. And that's why I've opted, and I share the sentiments with Carol. I've got a solar system applied both for domestic in the housing, lighting for security lights, and also for pumping of water. And it actually makes a lot of sense. With those costs, if you try and add the downtime, it makes sense to have the grid, the solar installation. So 2 questions for me. One is, why are we not thinking local manufacture of solar panels and components as early as now? Because this is definitely going to be a winner if we are supposed to get solar working countrywide. Secondly, is there an opportunity possibility for us to aggregate solar orders when we are looking at individuals to eliminate that middle person margin? Because the market is now flush with all sorts of people bringing in solar equipment, but I think the margins they are making are just simply impossible. So is there a way that, through the Institute, getting people to work together, aggregate orders and do direct orders from wherever it would be, China or wherever place it's doing? I think China is taking a lead to eliminate that middle person margin and make it even more cost effective for people who are interested. So thank you.
Thanks, Wekulo. Let me go. So, Njuguna, I hope you've captured that. Let me just read the few that are on the other questions that are in the chat box, so that you can respond to those at a go. There was one from Kenya. I don't know. It's probably not clear. Okay, the first was basically just a comment by Caroline about the sovereign statistics on the percentage on the fact that actually it's a majority of people in the sub-Sahara that are not that do not have access to electricity. So that was just a comment. Then the question from Kenya was about the scope of the 300,000 per kilowatt. I think it was something to do with the installation cost. And Kenya is also asking whether this includes inverters and battery storage capacity in kiloamps. So Njuguna, you can note that. And also, I mean, he was also asking he's also asking that you comment about the levelized cost of solar energy. I don't know what that means, but in case that's not clear, we'll also ask Patrick to repeat his question. The other thing that Patrick notes is that solar is not flexible, like Njuguna had mentioned. Again, the question is, okay, so it causes variability to the grid. It's a variable source of renewable energy causing inertia. So that's a question. That's a question.
Sorry. I can just clarify. There is I think there's a portion that he said that solar is one of the advantages of solar is that it's especially for the grid connected.
Yes.
One of the advantages is it's flexible, but it's not very flexible because when you talk to engineers, and if you look at how grid operates, it does not respond as fast to demand compared to other technologies like hydro or thermals. So that's one of the disadvantages. So it's not very flexible. But in one of his presentation, he said that it's flexible. And then in terms of reliability, I think even Kwame Wino mentioned that in terms of reliability, solar is not, as a standalone, is not reliable. So it has to be hybridized with either battery storage. And that's why I even asked the question about battery storage, so that at night you are able, or when it's cloudy, you've stored power and you're still able to get supply. Or if not storage, then you hybridize with other sources like a thermal or wind, which makes it very, very expensive. Because if you look at the trends about the storage cost of battery storage costs, they're not quite affordable. They've not dropped as fast as probably what we have seen in advances in technology in the solar panel space. So solar is still and solar. If you look at the places where the solar market has grown, it is as a result of the inefficiencies of Kenya Power. It's because Kenya Power is not able to provide reliable source. I have someone who has a business that is running and we're able to design for him, to structure for him like a business case for his solar investment. He was telling us that he runs a hotel or something, and during the day there are so many power outages in a way that he had to invest that so that his guests are not compromised. So what he did, since solar cannot take on heavy load, he only connected the solar system to the things like fridges, to the things like lighting and TV, which are light users of power. And then the rest, the heavy users, he still connected them to the grid. So even when there's outages, there are frequent outages within Western Kenya. for reasons that we know of through Ketraco and Kenya Power, then his clients are still able to get solar through the panel, and also he has invested some storage. And when you calculate the amount that he's able to save, then it was giving him a payback of about 7 years. But that was a while back when the costs were still a little bit high. So that's the business case that probably even as you go to a bank and you want to borrow, and someone wants to find out how well your whether this whether it has a strong viability, financial viability, and also economic viability, then those are some of the things that you look at. So when the line to Western region, because I know Western region is where we have a lot of power outages, when the line is completed by Ketraco and Kenya Power gets their act together, then this solar business, the business case for it will not be strong, because at the moment the business case for solar is Kenya Power. There are so many outages in some areas of Kenya, or the power is not reliable to some big company or institutions, so they want to use that as a backup. But at night it's not there. So those are some of the issues, and also probably the regulatory framework is still being looked at by EPRA. So thank you.
Thanks, Kinyo. I think that's now clear. So Njuguna, I hope you've noted that. Let me quickly go through the other questions in the chat box. Now, I think there was an exchange between some interesting exchange between Jonathan and Kinyo. So I don't know where I pick. So I think Jonathan, I hope, is asking whether there are new technologies that are being considered for repurposing of solar panels. And then I don't know whether this was a question that Jonathan asked, whether this is a question that is posing to Njuguna or it's to we center. It's about leasing arrangements, what the minimum kilowatt requirement that an individual for an individual to qualify for leasing. Let me move on. We have like two more. Then I can then I will invite Njuguna to respond. There's one from Bindio. So what Bindio is saying that the initial cost of installation may be high to be able to run all functionalities in the home industry, depending with the needs. But in the long run, it saves you significant cost. So that's a comment from Bindio. So he says that he's using an off-grid solar system and it serves all his priority needs at home. So that's another comment from Bindio. I think there is some additional information from Okello about Tesla, the fact that Tesla has come up with very compact and high capacity batteries for as much as 11 kilowatt hours. Yeah, so I don't see any other question. Most of those, the last ones that I've read, are basically comments and additional information. So Ngugi, I would like to invite you to respond to those questions.
Okay, thank you, John, and thank you for this question. I'll start with Wekulo's question. I agree that when we're looking at the savings from solar power, where it's not just the cost aspect. We need to look at reliability of supply, and reliability in this case is in terms of exactly what you expect from your system, how your system performs, that you're not caught off guard. With Kenya Power, for example, I could be seated here running this meeting, and my power goes out. So I mean, I completely agree with Wekulo. You cannot put a price to that sort of reliability. In terms of local manufacture, I don't think there's a business case for that yet, although there is a plant somewhere in Naivasha that's doing it. I think that it comes to the cost of production in Kenya in terms of labor inputs. It's really high because we'll still have to import the raw materials to come and manufacture here. So I think for now, if you ask me from where I'm seated, it would not serve to reduce the cost of the solar systems. In terms of aggregating, orders for the solar systems, in order to reduce the cost and the margins that suppliers in the market are making. I agree that the prices have been ridiculously high, with some suppliers really minting the market. We can take advantage of the situation that is where there's that gap and there's that need for reliable energy. In terms of our business model is to provide value for our products. So we maybe could contact me on the side and could see what pricing we're giving compared to the market, and maybe then you can do your comparisons and see best case. Quinoa, I didn't get what is the 300,000, the scope. I didn't understand what that was about, and the levelized. I didn't get that, but you also make a case in terms of what is reliability in this case, and flexibility. From where we are seated, like I've just said, is you know the performance of your systems. You know what it can do, what it can't do. You know the storage capacity you have. We have monitoring software where you can see your use. You can be able to regulate according to what the performance you want. You can expand and reduce your system to fit into the performance that you need from this and the energy needs that you have. So while I agree that a lot of the business case that is there in Western is because of the inadequacies of Kenya Power, I'm not sure whether those inefficiencies will be sorted out today or tomorrow, because I mean, ever since I knew who KPLC is, it's just been marred by a lot of inefficiencies. So when we cannot sit and stifle development and business efforts just because we sit and wait for this company that is basically a monopoly to get their act together. The question on leasing requirements for commercial systems. So we personally, as a business, we have partnered with a financial provider, and we do leasing arrangements for systems above 15 kilowatts. So if you're looking at that, maybe you can get in touch with us. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Njuguna, for that. I think we are now in the final round. Do we have any additional questions, either by show of hands, or I don't see any raised? Let me see. But there is one final question from Jonathan. So what Jonathan would like to know is that even with incentives like capital allowances, investment allowances, etc., this will not, according to Jonathan, this will not motivate local production with a name of the I don't know what CFTA to supply locally and regionally. that is being ratified. I don't know whether it means free trade area. Yeah, so that's Jonathan's question. I don't see any additional questions. So what I'll do is basically invite Njuguna to make his final remarks as he responds to this question from. Okay. So let me ask Jonathan. Jonathan, maybe to just clarify on your question, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. Ngugi, my question was, you had mentioned that there's a farm that can be able to produce panels in Naivasha. Now the question is, if you are able to set up a factory or a production facility outside Nairobi or outside a developed area, you can be able to qualify for capital allowance or investment allowance from URA with very good incentives. Now, can this push producers to be able to produce for the local market with an aim of also exporting the same within the region, because now we have the after ratification, and considering that Kenya, in terms of infrastructure development, technology, road network, and so on, and even the human resource, we are a little bit developed than most of the countries within the sub-Saharan region. Thank you.
Thank you. So Njuguna, you can respond to that and make your final remarks. I can see there's been lots of requests for you to share your contacts. So the contacts are actually in the chat box. And then, of course, invite Kwame to make any final remarks, and we'll close it at that here. So Njuguna?
Yeah, so Jonathan, you make an interesting case. I think with the support of government and policies in place, we can definitely find ways of manufacturing with a view of exporting. However, most of and I think the biggest issue with development and such such projects locally, it's driven by interests. So who is it benefiting? So while in theory it makes a lot of sense, I think practically in terms of implementation, it would still, I feel like it would still beat the benefits in terms of the initial outlay that you'd have to put in order to just get these incentives. So to just finalize on this, I think that I want to thank everyone for attending this webinar. I hope that this discussion has given you some input and insight into the solar market and the solar space in Kenya, and the need to go clean, the need for renewable energy, and we'll have you, talking and seeing the ways that you can, improve and make your systems more efficient, or your operations more efficient. Thank you.
Thanks, Njuguna. Kwame, any final remarks?
No, thanks. Yeah, I mean, just to say that, yes, this has been an interesting conversation, both from the policy, the perfect economics of an industry, and I think the dynamism that it shows means that we have to keep watching this industry. And I think that it's generating new competition, which the sector in general, the energy supply, distribution, generation, distribution, and transmission sector in Kenya needs, providing a series of options for many more. Anything that increases competition in an economy such as Kenya's is good for for the economy. I mean, anything that increases competition is good for the welfare of workers. So I'd like to, I mean, the welfare of consumers. So I'd like to confirm, I'd like to thank everybody else for being here. And thanks, Njuguna, for an interesting and very informative discussion. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Kwame, and of course to Njuguna and Sydenham for that insightful discussion. Obviously, you've demystified certain things about solar energy use, and this was quite illuminating. So again, to our participants, we're also grateful for basically setting time to just join us in this webinar. I have seen that most of you had requested or were asking where you'll be able to obtain this or get this, access this presentation. So we'll post it on our website as soon as we are done with this. So you can actually get it from our website. So otherwise, thanks a lot again for this, and just to mention that and to basically invite you to also look out for more of our webinars. We'll obviously publicize this in our different social media platforms. Thanks a lot and have a good morning. Bye-bye.
Bye.